Alright, last week didn't exactly go to plan, but don't worry, I've got an idea.
Does it involve pressing big red buttons?
Not anymore, it doesn't.
I don't know, man. People might get tired of the podcast if we jump the shark too much.
Wait a minute, I've got it.
A few moments later.
Why would you take us to a dimension where sharks did nothing but jump?
No, in my defence. No, actually, I've got nothing. They just seemed like good listeners, you know?
That's it, I quit.
Now, hold on a minute. There's still one dimension we haven't tried yet. Might be our most ambitious one yet. One full of adventure, intrigue. And the Red Panda lawyer has just pulled our funding. I didn't even know he could do that.
I knew we should have stayed in the shark dimension. Welcome to Marvel Month.
Hello everybody and welcome to the second episode of Marvel Month. My name's Satsunami and joining me today is none other than the Multiverse master himself. It is Andrew. Andrew, welcome back.
They've actually cancelled my appearance in the Multiverse concept and I'm being replaced. Sorry. Bye, guys. Door shuts noise.
And joining us today is none other than Martin McAllister. Martin, welcome.
Hi, guys.
Which we totally planned from the very beginning. See if you go to season, 2, there's like a throwaway line. I'm not going to tell you which episode though. You have to find it because that's part of the fun. But meta jokes aside, how are you doing, Andrew?
What we actually have to do is cast someone who left the show and now come back to play a different role, but no one's actually going to believe that it's not just the same person.
Do you know how hard it is to get Adam on the line?
Or if we offered him the role of Doctor Doom?
Hold on, I need to make a phone call. Yeah, I've just got off the phone with him there. He says, go to hell. I don't know what that means.
Oh, he's talking about the Doom playthrough that we played, that we were going to talk about with him, then didn't go to hell.
I thought that was just a Ghost Rider reference, you know?
Oh, maybe. Nicolas Cage aside.
Both fate's worse than death. Anyway, speaking of fate's worse than death, actually for legal reasons, that is a joke. Last week, we of course dived into what made the MCU so great, as well as its rise to prominence. And now this week, we're going to be bringing the tone down by talking about its, well, when I say in the title of this episode it's downfall, I mean in the sense of how it's publicly perceived, because is it right in saying that technically the MCU is still, well, financially viable, as it were?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, there's some movies that have come out recently that have been fairly well received. There's movies coming out that people are looking forward to. There's the new Spider-Man coming out this month, time of release, and there's also going to be the new Avengers film coming out later this year. So there's still some people looking forward to what MCU has coming out. It's certainly not got the same level of intrigue and hype around it that it did during the Infinity Saga, but I'd say it's on a better track now than it was a couple of years ago.
It's quite interesting how in phases 1 to 3 we still had Marvel properties, both for the films, which were the major draw, but then we also had the TV shows, and it's something we didn't really touch on much last week. You know, you had things like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which I think went on for roughly 6 seasons, I want to say. It went on for a while, but then we also had the ones like, is it the Defenders or the New York Defenders? It sounds like an American football team. You know, you had Jessica Jones, you had Iron Fist, you had Luke Cage, Daredevil. I nearly forgot Daredevil.
I don't know, of all the ones you could have forgotten, you forgot the one that was the most interesting.
Yeah, that is very true. Funny enough, back in the day, I think the only one I really watched most of was Iron Fist.
I very almost name dropped you there, just in incredulation.
The censor bun in the corner just getting his wee placard out being like, don't you do it. Don't you do it. I mean, I watched bits and pieces and I know they had their Avengers moment where they all came together and was it the Defenders or something?
It was Defenders, yeah. I quite enjoyed that, to be honest. I thought it was fun having them all kind of come together in that way, because I tried Iron Fist, I just lost interest very quickly. I tried Luke Cage, again, it was alright, but I didn't make it through to the end of the season. I watched all of Jessica Jones.
Was that good? good.
It had its ups and downs. The first season was very good. First season was really, really, really interesting. David Tennant's in it, and is like a really compelling villain, a really scary villain, in fact. And it had its moments throughout the seasons, but it also was kind of frustrating for a lot of it too. Daredevil, I watched and really enjoyed the first season, 2 seasons, I want to say, of it, and then I kind of dropped it after that. And I didn't make it through all of Punisher, despite hearing it was quite good. But I've come back to watch the most recent 2 seasons of the Daredevil, not reboot, but continuation, I guess. That's really good. I've really enjoyed that. So I think they're kind of getting back on the heels with that. But back at the time when Defenders came out, it was fun. It was interesting. It was the best thing they'd done with those characters, at least half of them.
Yeah.
So I quite enjoyed that.
Yeah, and it is interesting that Marvel were dipping their toes into that. Obviously, cartoons and animated shows aside there, because I know there was other properties like that were going on, but for those ones, it is interesting to think that that was still going on. By the time Phase 4 rolled around, would you say it's right in saying that they started focusing a lot more on the TV shows and that kind of aspect of the MCU? Because obviously the films are always going to be there, but yeah, there was definitely more coming out in terms of TV shows, wasn't there?
There was certainly a lot of interest around things like WandaVision, Loki,
The Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Oh, right, Falcon Winter Soldier, which a lot of people really didn't like that show. I thought it was okay.
Yeah, we'll get into it, but yeah, I can see why people liked it and disliked it, but it's not the worst one for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I watched that one with my partner, and she quite enjoyed it, and she liked the kind of relationship between Bucky and the Falcon. And so when we ended up watching Thunderbolts later, she kind of like was like, I know Bucky, I know the guy who tried to be Captain America, Walker, something.
Yeah, John Walker.
John Walker, yeah.
John Walker's Crisps, yeah.
Exactly.
A nice name drop there or something.
You trying to get a sponsorship deal?
Gary Lineker, if you're listening.
Off topic completely, but because you know, like Walker's over here is Lay's.
Yeah.
So there's an ad for the World Cups going on, and it's David Beckham that's promoting Lay's crisps with Lionel Messi's in it and some other footballers or people are in it. And I was like, well, why didn't Gary Lineker do this one? I was like, oh, it's because no one outside of the UK knows who Gary Lineker is.
I mean, he was famous around the same time that £5 were being hidden in Walker's crisps, so that was a while ago. And there's only going to be a tiny amount of Pandalorians out there listening and be like, oh yeah, I remember that. Moving it back onto Marvel before we go down that rabbit hole. Trust me, that's next week's episode.
To the crisp cinematic universe.
But yeah, there was definitely a lot more focus on these TV shows, and they definitely felt a lot more higher budget, which I like, but at the same time, they did feel like mini movies. It's kind of the thing that Netflix seemed to have popularised before, you know, when they basically have TV shows that are now an hour long or 45 minutes long, and you have to look at them and think, am I going to dedicate all this time to this show? Because it's not just a 2-hour film you stick on and then you go, all right, okay, I'm done. Because there is, and again, we'll get into it soon, but there is a lot of these TV shows, some better than others, but they did this weird thing where they interlocked a lot of the lore and what was going on in the universe with the TV shows. They weren't their own separate entities, so if you hadn't watched a particular show, then you wouldn't really know the context going into the film. Cough, Doctor Strange cough. And trust me, we will get onto that film, but it is baffling. But before we dive in, see when you heard about this, that Marvel were just throwing all their eggs into the TV basket and everything, more really than the films, were you curious about how that was going to go?
Yeah, I mean, my thought, and also kind of the common thought at the time, was the way that they're integrating the TV shows into the Marvel Cinematic Universe meant that whilst it was cool that it felt like it meant something, the shows you were watching, because with a lot of the TV shows, nothing that happened in the TV shows really carried over to the movies. They were only very able to subtly kind of nod to stuff that was happening in the movies, in the TV shows. Like you'd see on the wall in like Jessica Jones or Daredevil or whatever, an article about the Hulk rampaged through X place, or there was the Shatari ships invaded New York, that kind of stuff. There'll be kind of hints towards that, but they're never able to go into it fully because they're their own thing. But they They have their separate legal set of stuff, especially the Netflix ones. Whereas when we got over to Disney Plus and they started integrating those, things that were happening in those shows were directly influencing what was then happening in the movie side of things. Like the kind of stuff that's happening in WandaVision is impacting what would then go on to be like Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, and the Falcon and the Winter Soldier would impact what then later happened for Captain America, Brave New World, and Thunderbolts, and these kind of things. That's the case for, of course, so many of these. And so now it felt like these shows became homework for people, where if they didn't watch them, then they didn't know what was going on when it came to the movies. And so the fact that you had so many things you had to kind of keep up with in order to understand what was going on, which pros and cons to that. I can understand. I don't mind that so much because I enjoy absorbing all this content and having this kind of continuation. And I like to be the one who's like, oh, this person's in this, they were actually in that, if I explain to people. Whereas a lot of the general audience are like, who, what, where, why? Why do I care about this person?
Yeah.
If I have to spend more of my precious time at home getting through 10 hours of a series in order to then be able to kind of continue to understand what is going on in these 90 minutes to 2-hour long movies, then that's not really my speed. And so you're losing a lot of the audience through that method, whilst enriching, and for some people on the other side.
Yeah, because it's a thing that I think a lot of franchises seem to be doing, in particular Star Wars as well. I'm trying to think of what else. I mean, Doctor Who, and again, I could rant about that for ages, but that has a similar problem where it begins relatively accessible to the wider audience to say, oh, there's this guy, he's a threat, and you go, okay, that's the bad guy, that's the good guy, let's go into it. But then there's some of the stories where it's like, oh, right, there's this bad guy, but he was a good guy, but oh, if you haven't watched this episode 10 years ago of this show, then you're not going to understand. And as you said, it gets too muddled, and you don't really want to be thinking of homework, especially with a series that, I'm not saying it is geared to kids, it is geared towards all audiences, but it's safe to say that the majority of people who are watching these are generally families. And again, it's not a great feeling being like, who's that? What did they do? Having to know the lore and all of these different films. And on that note, I think that's the perfect place to jump the shark, as it were. Hey, call back to 10 minutes ago, 20 minutes ago. Yeah, to jump the shark and go into this episode, explore why the MCU didn't maybe work from phases 4 to 6. And again, we'll touch on phase 6 because we're only halfway through, or about 75% of the way through. But yeah, we'll be right back after these multiverse messages. Welcome to Chatsunami, a Scottish variety podcast that discusses topics from gaming and films to anime and general interest. Join me, your host, Satsunami, as well as the rest of our Chatsunami team for our takes on these very important pop culture topics.
Sir, it's clearly a trap. I accept your fate!
That happens 3 times in the film. Like every time that general goes, don't do this one thing, he goes, do you know what I'm gonna do? That's exact.
It does as well. She had the pointy teeth. What was that about?
She looked like Bilbo when he wants the ring back.
She did, didn't she? I just want the lightsaber one more time.
Parasite says, no, you will get back into your office and work.
No, says the man in Zoom. Yeah. Trousers are for the working man.
You're bursting into your hotel room. Honey, we need to go.
Leave the kids. You can milk an audition.
Oh! That's the worst thing you've ever said in any of the episodes.
If that sounds like your cup of tea, then you can check us out at our website, chatsunami.com, as well as all good podcast apps. As always, stay safe, stay awesome, and most importantly, stay hydrated.
Stay classy and have a banana. This has been Satsunami.
I'm sorry.
We're Seismic Cinema. I'm Colin. I've probably not seen it. Paul's watched it in the wrong order.
And I'm James, and I've probably written an essay on it. And that's Seismic Cinema. We believe in the power of escapism.
Oh, thank God for that. That'll do.
And we are back. Let's start with Phase 4. And in particular, let's hone in on the films, because I have to say there's not really a lot to work with here. There's only 2 of these films I think I enjoyed. And the rest of them have gone from to, oh God, why? What is really weird is we finally got our Black Widow standalone film, despite the fact Yeah, despite what happened in the previous film. Whoopsie doodle, apple strudel. Why would you do that and start off phase 4 with that? I don't know, but yeah, I mean, this is a mix because you've got Black Widow, you've got Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, which wasn't that bad. You've got Eternals, you've got Spider-Man No Way Home, you've got Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, you've got Thor, Love and Thunder, also known as Thor, Why Did You Try? Taika Waititi. And then last but certainly not least, you had Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. Okay, Andrew, where do you want to begin with this list?
I guess we'll start on Black Widow.
Yeah, you had a very visceral reaction to that film.
So... there's a lot that I liked about Black Widow. I quite liked, I believe, it's David Harbour as Red Guardian. I thought that was quite an enjoyable kind of role. And Florence Pugh as Yelena was quite good in a lot of it. There was some certain like emotional depth to what was happening in the movie. And it was interesting kind of seeing some of Black Widow's backstory, but it felt like such a nothing burger. The story was paced in kind of a strange way. The villain felt very boring.
Just there.
Yeah, the use of Taskmaster was done in such a bizarre way. That's a very common criticism. Taskmaster is a pretty fun villain in Marvel, and Black Widow is a fun superhero, but having Taskmaster as a villain that Black Widow is able to defeat kind of dumbs it down a little bit. I feel like it should be like a higher tier of villain than that.
Am I right in saying that Taskmaster copies abilities of heroes?
I believe so. I don't know the full extent of it, but I'm pretty sure Taskmaster can copy powers and stuff like that, not just fighting styles.
Yeah, I was going to say, what's he copying from Black Widow? I mean, don't get me wrong, she's obviously talented.
The thigh headlock thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's like copying Hawkeye. Like, oh yeah, he can shoot a bow and arrow. Good luck getting a bow and arrow in the middle of a fight.
Katniss Everdeen over here.
Yeah, exactly. And it's such a weird film as well because it's like a prequel, isn't it? To, well, not a prequel, but it's set before Endgame and everything.
It's a weird time placement because some of it takes place prior to the events of most of the MCU, and then some of it takes place just before Endgame. But then I think some of it does take place afterward, does it? Or maybe not. Maybe I'm remembering wrong. Because Yelena gets snapped, I remember. But I'm trying to remember when she returns. Does she return in Black Widow or does she return in a different thing? Because she tries to hunt down Hawkeye. So maybe she comes back during Hawkeye.
Is it not Thunderbolt she comes back?
No, I mean, she's in that. But in the Hawkeye TV show with Haley Steinfeld, Yelena is one of the characters that's like trying to hunt down Hawkeye because she believes that it's his fault that Natasha died. She comes back in that one, and then she kind of has her like a somewhat not redemption, but she kind of figures out that Hawkeye's not to blame.
It's not your fault.
Yeah, exactly. And then she has her like...
No, it's not your fault.
No, I know.
It's not your fault, man.
Don't do this to me, man. It was real to me.
It was real. Oh god, the accents in this. Yeah.
At least Yelena commits to it and stays with it. Natasha loses it completely.
Yeah.
Whatever, like she was trying to integrate into North American society, so she had to kind of keep that, and so she kind of just kept that. But then you have people like Wanda Maximoff, who in Age of Ultron had that Eastern European fake country accent, and then immediately dropped that.
She's like, yeah, I'm not doing this for 10 films.
Elizabeth Olsen's like, no, I'm not doing that anymore.
I am not doing it anymore. It's like, nope, we're just dropping it. Yeah, I'm not a dialect coach, I'm not. But yeah, it does. It seems kind of all over the place. Again, you summed it up perfectly. It's just such a nothing burger. And the thing is as well, I can't remember if this came out in cinemas, but I don't think it did.
It was supposed to, but then COVID happened. And so it was quite famous for this. It became the first movie on Disney Plus that dropped on Disney Plus and had like a paywall. And so you were supposed to have to pay to be able to watch Black Widow. And I can't remember if I watched it another way or if we just waited until it was free to watch it. I remember watching it at my wife's parents' house at the time. And that came out, and then Eternals came out soon afterwards, I think. Because they both came out just on Disney Plus, I believe.
Yeah, because Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, that came out kind of in between those films.
Oh, really? Because that one I did see at the cinema.
Maybe it got a delayed release, to be honest. I wouldn't be surprised because it was September time, which, to be fair, was the tail end of the lockdowns. 2020 obviously was the height of it, and half of 2021. I can't actually remember when the lockdowns were lifted. It's like we all blinked, ironically enough, much like the snap. We all blinked and were like, oh, it's over. Oh, what now? Yeah, Shang-Chi, I mean, I enjoyed it, but then on the flip side, it has Aquafina, so...
So my impression of Shang-Chi, unfortunately, was slightly sullied by how mad I was in the cinema.
Aquafina.
No, when we arrived to the cinema, someone was sitting in the seats that we'd purchased, and the cinema was quite full, and so we then had to find a seat really awkwardly at like the back. And I asked the guys, I was like, "Hey, you're out of seats. Do you mind moving?" And they just looked at me, just like blank stare, just looked at me like, "No." I didn't say that, but they just like looked at me like, "No." And so I just sat at the back, just being like really mad with them.
This would have never happened in Iron Man.
Well, it was one of those ones where it was the first film that we saw after the pandemic had been lifted, and so I was like, society's ruined. No one knows cinema etiquette anymore.
This better be the best damn film I've ever seen. And then the Mandarin pops up.
Pretty sure also during the film, someone got a phone call and answered it during the film. And then that happened again the next film I went to see at the cinema. I don't remember what the next film was after that, but someone else took a call during the film and people was like being really noisy and disruptive. And I was like, we weren't in lockdown long enough that you've forgotten how to act in public, let alone in a cinema.
I don't know what to call it. It is definitely a symptom of the lockdowns because although I haven't experienced that to the same degree in cinemas yet, there have been a few times where I'm looking over going, really? This is a cinema? This is a holy place? As I turn round to watch Eternals.
Sanctuary!
Sanctuary!
Shang-Chi, though, I thought it was a fun film. It was cool having the kung fu aspect in the MCU, which we've not really had before.
Iron Fist, cough.
No.
I can't see your face, but I can just tell you're looking disgusted. Like, ew, Iron Fist? No way.
Netflix doesn't even really count as the MCU. That's
true.
Real. The Netflix shows, like, they've now since been kind of reintegrated, but
recanonized, yeah.
Yeah, we don't talk about Iron Fist. Even in the Marvel What If, they like did like a cowboy thing, and Iron Fist was in that, but it was like a young East Asian kid, and so they've already been like, no, Danny isn't Iron Fist anymore. He's smelly.
Yeah, that was quite a prominent trope, wasn't it? Because remember Green Arrow came out roughly the same time, and it's like, yeah, let's just get this disheveled white man out.
Well, that's so funny you should mention Green Arrow because it's such a similar setup with the two characters where both spoiled rich kids who are supposed to like inherit their parents' grand company fortune then have this horrendous thing happen because someone within the company, I think, set up for them to go die on a trip away. Green Arrow gets stranded on this island and after his boat gets sunk, and then Danny, I think something happens on a plane ride or something through the Himalayas or something. I'm just maybe making that up. I don't remember. It was terrible. And then they learn the secrets of fighting and stuff, and they return to fight crime in their cities. And so there's a very kind of similar setup in that way. But unlike Iron Fist, Green Arrow is actually compelling.
That was a CW show, wasn't it?
It was. Those CW shows, they were fun.
Yeah, I mean, you've got The Flash, you've got Supergirl, you know. Yeah, as you said, I'll need to watch them one day, but I've seen clips and bits and pieces, and they do seem really goofy, but in like a good way.
There was the something of Tomorrow. What the hell are they called? There was like a Guardians of the Galaxy kind of thing, but they would like travel through time.
And the guy from Doctor Who was in that, ironically enough. He was married to Karen Gillan's character. I think it's Arthur Davo, I want to say.
Yeah. The guy played Rory, right.
Yeah, that's the one. I should have just led with that, because I'm like, I don't know if you know Rory or not.
The guy from Prison Break was in it as well. Huh. He was a villain in Arrow or Flash? One of the two. He was one of like the main characters in it. A redemption thing where he was becoming like a good guy or something. I think the whole point was most of them were bad guys, I think, getting like redeemed or something. I can't remember. It was good. We're getting off topic. We're talking about DC CW shows instead of the MCU, but
maybe next year we'll go into the DC CWU. That's a mouthful. Let's get
ironically done better than the DCU has been, to be honest.
Yeah, true. I mean, the MCU is still here. Way. So, speaking of things that are no longer here, the Eternals, this one definitely, and I mean, I've seen bits and pieces of it. I'm not going to pretend I'm an expert in the lore of the Eternals or anything.
You don't remember Gilgamesh and others?
Yeah, sure, why not? I remember, what's his face? Rob Stark.
Rob Stark's in it, yeah.
Rob Stark's in it. Jon Snow's in it.
Angelina Jolie's in it.
Is she?
Yeah, I would say she's like Athena. She's not Athena.
Yeah.
I don't remember what she's called, but she's some sort of like warrior lady.
I know Gemma Chan's in it.
So, yeah, did you say that... what's the bastard called again? What's his name? Jon Snow.
Oh, Jon Snow, yeah. What's the bastard called? Oh, yeah. You mean Ned Stark's son? No, the bastard. Yeah, Ned Stark's son. Yeah, Kit Harington. Sorry.
Kit Harington, that's the one. Kamal Nanjiani's in it, and Kamal Nanjiani got like super buff for the role, and he was told like he was going to get buff for this role, and it was going to step into loads of like MCU stuff, and it only ended up being Eternals.
Do you know, I'll tell you how bad Eternals is. I actually got it mixed up with the Immortals, and when I saw Black Bolt, you know, the guy who shouts really loudly in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, I was like, oh, that's one of the Eternals. And then when I rewatched in preparation for this, I'm like, oh, I messed up. That is not an Eternal. But I'm like, is that not the same thing? And there is a Marvel fan calling for my head right now. I apologise, but...
So funny with the Immortals as well. Again, it came and went with absolutely no impression. The fact that the guy ended up still being in that Doctor Strange movie was wild.
It's absolutely crazy. But I mean, speaking of crazy and moving away from the Eternals before it sullies the podcast, we've got Spider-Man No Way Home, which came out right after, and we've talked about it on, at least I think we've talked about it on the...
Spider-Man month, yeah.
Yeah. Did it come out at the same time? I'm hoping it did, but I'm sure we did talk about it.
Yeah, because it was the third Tom Holland Spider-Man. We talked about the trilogy, the duology, and then the other trilogy. So we went through all 8 movies.
That's what I thought, and I'm like, wait, did we? There's so many episodes of this podcast, I swear.
You didn't re-listen to it in preparation for this?
I was getting to it, okay. Speaking of doing your homework, yeah, Spider-Man No Way Home, listen to that episode that we did if you want our full thoughts, but long story short, Spider-Man No Way Home was just a nostalgia fest, wasn't it? You know, it was like, oh, people who loved Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man and who loved Andrew Garfield and who tolerated Tom Holland's Spider-Man, you know.
You're so mean to the Tom Holland Spider-Man. So many people love the Tom Holland Spider-Man.
I think he's good. For legal reasons, that is definitely a joke. I do think he is a good Spider-Man. I think he's too fresh for me just now because...
It's been a decade.
Listen, you deal with it your way, I'll deal with it with mine. It's like when Andrew Garfield came in and I was like, I don't like him. And then you rewatch the films and you're like, actually, he is really damn good in this. He's the best part of those 2 films. But yeah, Tom Holland, I'm waiting for someone else to come in. I actually heard a rumour of that where it was like, and again, I don't think this is verified at all, but there was a rumour going around where Tom Holland had said, oh yeah, you know the kid from Adolescence? He should be the next Spider-Man. And I'm like, bold choice of words, Mr. Holland. Bold choice.
I know that he's toyed around with the idea of retiring from acting quite young.
Really?
Yeah, but I think he said that once, again, I don't know if this is confirmed or not, that once he and Zendaya have kids, that he wants to pull away from acting. But he's been doing quite a few other projects and stuff. He's doing that Odyssey movie, the Christopher Nolan film.
I do laugh at that he does one Chris Nolan film and he says, that's it, I'm out.
What's quite funny is what he's been doing is that from the set of the Odyssey, he's been calling the Spider-Man producers and being like, Chris does it like this, we should do this in the next Spider-Man.
That's quite funny. Yeah, because that is coming out, actually, as of recording this episode, in a couple of weeks.
Oh, really?
But yeah, going back to No Way Home, it was just a complete nostalgia fest, and it was a great film. And I thought, great, I wonder what they're going to do next, only to be hit with a massive trailer at the very end for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. I'm going to veer off for a second here, because at this time, concurrently with the films, you had the TV series coming out on Disney+. And the one that you had to have watched before, again, I use this very loosely, but the one you had to have watched before was WandaVision, which I have to say, see in terms of original TV shows and everything, I actually thought it was pretty good.
What was so fun with WandaVision was that it felt like a water cooler type show, because you were getting it week to week. It wasn't all just at one time. There was so much speculation about what certain things meant and who the ultimate villain was, and everyone was like, it's Mephisto, it's Mephisto. Mephisto? The guy's like the devil in Marvel. I can't remember.
No, I know the one who erased MJ from existence, who we thought No Way Home was coming back. It's like, it's Mephisto. It's like, no, it's not. It's Benedict Cumberbatch. Go sit down. But anyway, sorry.
And so WandaVision was really, really fun for a lot of it being so weird out there. Something was wrong. You could tell things kept kind of deteriorating in this world. It was really, really compelling and interesting. And it was arguably the best thing TV series wise that Marvel's done, and one of the best shows that Disney Plus has done. But yeah, the end result of it, the end of it was weird and generic fighty lasers kind of fight.
Oh boy, I love laser beams in the sky. It's like Dragon Ball. Oh boy.
So that was kind of a bit of a disappointing ending. But the end result of WandaVision leads into Multiverse of Madness. So it kind of became quite important understanding understand that. Devil's advocate, you could say that you don't necessarily need to watch WandaVision. Just having seen Infinity War and then Vision dying would be enough. But no, that's not strictly true, because the whole thing is she wants her kids back. The kids were exclusive to WandaVision.
You know, I could totally be wrong in this, but I'm sure I remember someone saying that they wrote Multiverse of Madness, but they hadn't watched WandaVision yet because it hadn't come out or something like that. So they were told, oh, she has to be the villain, she wants her kids back. But the characterization between her at the end of WandaVision versus the absolute psychopath that she becomes in the Multiverse of Madness is just, it's really jarring. And I don't think it helps because Sam Raimi, who is an excellent horror director in the sense of he's really goofy, but at the same time, he can bring a lot of really gruesome and horrible moments in. But at the same time, it just doesn't match up with the TV show versus the film. It's kind of all over the place. And I mean, there's a lot wrong with Doctor Strange.
Yeah, I did feel that the end result of WandaVision, she kind of felt like she'd come to terms with what happened for the most part. And then I think there is an end credit scene in WandaVision where she's got this scary book thing and she's kind of gone a bit crazy there. So it does kind of hint at it. But I presume that's because they already knew what was happening with Multiverse of Madness. And so they kind of maybe had to add that in later.
And Benedict Cumberbatch gets a third eye. They never mention that again.
Well, there's still time.
I mean, he'll probably return for Doomsday, but even then it's like, oh, look, there's a character. It's a cult shitto character. And oh, he's got a third eye and he's going into the weirdo dimension. I'm like, oh, okay.
There's so many end credit scenes that have not been followed up with. Remember Harry Styles rocks up in one of them for something? And then there's, at the end of Thor Love and Thunder, there's Hercules or something that rocks up. End of Eternals, Jon Snow gets the black sword.
Whatever the hell that does, yeah.
It's supposed to be because there's a character that's essentially like a Black Knight, essentially. And so he's supposed to be that character. There's loads of end credit scenes that just haven't actually happened or been followed through with. But they did set up Adam Warlock in like Guardians.
And going off of that, you know, we go from what the hell was that with Multiverse of Madness to Love and Thunder. I wouldn't be surprised if this was the breaking point of why Chris Hemsworth wants to hang up the hammer and say, I'm not going to be Thor anymore. Again, I think this is peak Taika Waititi hubris, where it's like, oh, look, I'm so funny, I'm the class clown. And they took a character that he was a bit too serious in the early run, and then they gave him a bit of levity with Ragnarok and things, which was a good film. And then with this, they just, I don't even know, they just made it quite And again, that's all I can say, because he clearly didn't think of the script, and neither am I right now.
There are aspects of Thor Love and Thunder that I enjoyed, I thought was alright, but there was a lot of moments where I was rolling my eyes, where I felt like they were trying too hard. The goats thing, I just hated.
I mean, that's a dated meme.
The screaming goats, it's such a dated meme. There were still people in the theatre that really enjoyed it, and I watched it with my wife and my sister-in-law, and they both thought it was funny, and people in the audience did as well. It still hits the mark for some people. I just found it a bit tired. The use of Natalie Portman was an odd choice. I was quite on board in many ways for what they were doing for having her be new Thor. Lady Thor was like a big thing in the comics. She was Thor for a very long time. I can't remember the actual canon and context around it, whether or not Thor is just, it is still Thor and it's a woman. The god Thor, it just becomes a woman or whatever, or whether it's like someone else that takes on the mantle of Thor. I'm not super clear on that. But regardless, I was pretty content with the idea of Natalie Portman being like, okay, she's now Thor. This whole thing where taking on the power of Thor is what saves her from dying from her sickness. But then at the end, spoilers for it, but she dies. And it feels very odd to have done it in that way. I feel they should have committed to having, especially with Chris Hemsworth seemingly not that interested in continuing with the property, that they should have had that transition at that point.
I kind of wish they did pull a Witcher where it's just they don't acknowledge it and it's like, hey guys, I'm Thor. And they're like, oh, okay.
You're the different Hemsworth brother.
Silence you.
It's the third Hemsworth. It's not even Liam.
But it was honestly just a bit of a mess. And I don't think we have really seen Thor since, which is very bizarre.
He doesn't usually show up unless it's either a Thor movie or an Avengers movie, and we haven't had that yet. So he'll be coming back in Doomsday.
Yeah.
I've heard that he might be doing God Rune God Thor, or whatever it's called, where he's at his like most powerful. So I hope that's what we kind of get, especially if it's going to be Chris Hemsworth's last outing as Thor. I hope we at least get to see him in that role, because the stuff stuff with Ragnarok was really cool, where he powered up and learned the kind of true power of his godhood as the Thunder God. That was really fun. And then it felt like such a backward step with Love and Thunder. So we'll see where Thor goes from that. It was unfortunately a misstep. I like Taika Waititi generally, but I do think that he got a bit full of himself.
Moving on from, again, getting tainted by Thor, Love and Thunder, the poignant swan song for the fourth phase was Black Panther Wakanda Forever, which unfortunately it was because of the death of the actor Chadwick Boseman, who I can't remember the specific type of cancer, but he passed away, even though I don't think he told any of his fellow actors or whatever, and he kept it a secret and everything. And it was a really sad state of affairs. And of course, when they brought this out, there was a lot of conversation about whether they were going to pass on the mantle of the Black Panther.
They do to the sister. The whole film, most of the film is about her fulfilling that role and learning to be that person. And then at the very end of the film, maybe like a closing credits, they're like, but also he has a son and he'll take over the mantle when he's old enough. And so it kind of felt like, I guess, a very temporary kind of thing of she's going to be Black Panther, but not for that long. We'll have someone else there soon enough, don't you worry. It was like, well, this felt pointless that if you're not going to give it the time. Maybe they will, maybe they'll have her be the Black Panther for a while longer, but it feels like they're setting up to have her handed off for long.
What I find really odd about this phase, and this is my summary before we go into phase 5, is the fact is this is the beginning of the Multiverse saga, and other than obviously Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, and I mean even the Spider-Man one technically, but we don't really, I mean we deep dive into it at the very end, but we don't really see much of it. There's no kind of hints about the overarching villain that's going to come in, which I find weird because jumping quickly onto the TV shows that came out at this time, the only major one that really touches on this is Loki, and that introduces Jonathan Majors, who plays, is it Kang the Conqueror?
Yes.
And we will touch on that in the Phase 5 retrospective, but, you know, other than that, we've got really different genres. Like, we've got The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which is more action, espionage, which was fairly decent for what it was. Then we've got Loki, which is a kind of fun romp into time shenanigans. And this is probably going to get me crucified, I'm personally not a massive fan of it. Not because of Tom Hiddleston or any of the actors or the characters or anything. I don't like the concept of multiverses because it really undercuts everything that happens in the one universe. You know, time travel kind of skirts that line of, if you can time travel, why didn't you just do this or that? But
see, I'm mixed on it because I think the idea of multiverse can be quite fun and it's done in different properties. I think as well, because multiverses seem to be such a hot topic at that time across so many different movies. You had the Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse movies, you had Marvel doing it, you had various other properties doing it, you had the Everywhere Everything All at Once movie winning in like the Oscars kind of thing. Lots of properties were jumping into that idea. With Loki, when you had a multiverse, it gave you the opportunity to do lots of fun stuff, like pull stuff from the comic books that you otherwise wouldn't see, like Kid Loki and Alligator Loki and Old Man Loki, who was wearing the old school attire that Loki used to wear. So there's lots of fun little kind of bits in there, and it does allow you to pull elements together, like having the Fantastic Four, for example, which we'll talk about at a later point. But having multiverse means that you can go like, these people who otherwise would have made no sense that they've not been addressed up until now, because they're quite an important group of characters, they exist and have had their own adventure, and now they can come and interact with the rest of the storyline, but they were independently doing their thing in a different universe, essentially.
But then after we get Loki, we get your favourite show, What If, which you love. You've told me that several times.
I was so excited by the premise of What If. Season 1, there was a couple of interesting ideas. I think Marvel Zombies was one of the ideas in Season 1 that was kind of interesting, but mostly it was kind of boring. And then Season 2 was really lame. And then they did that Marvel Zombies individually. They realized, like, okay, this is the best idea we had, so let's try and do more of a thing with it. I don't particularly like the animation style that they went with for What If. I don't like the style of comedy and storytelling that they utilized in it. I feel like they were kind of flanderizing a lot of the characters through the What If storylines. It made everyone seem less compelling. And a lot of the choices they made for like What If stories to tell were kind of boring. They could have done something a lot more fun. I think one of them was a wacky races style race, Thor Ragnarok, that world with the person there. Like, who cares? There was a What If storyline around Darcy and Howard the Duck having a baby together. And like the whole story was them protecting the egg that they had, which had some elements that were kind of funny, but it just felt like Baby's Day Out.
Which we all love in Chatsunami. It's definitely a divisive one because it does, much like Loki, it spans between phases 4 and 5. And of course, finishing it off, we've got Hawkeye, which was okay, I guess.
It was fun. I don't like Jeremy Renner, the person.
But the character, yeah, he's alright.
But the character of Hawkeye is alright. A lot of people are kind of like, oh, who gives a crap about Hawkeye? I find him fun. I think he's cool.
He's like the Aquaman of the MCU.
He is not the Aquaman of the MCU.
Oh, come on, he is. It's like people roll their eyes and go, oh, what's the fish person gonna do? Same with him. What's the bow and arrow guy gonna do? Although it did come out at Christmas time, and it was very much a Christmas-centric story, so that was quite cool. Now, I will give it that.
I quite enjoy doing that. They've done a few things around Christmas time. I remember there was that Guardians of the Galaxy Christmas special as well.
But then we've got Moon Knight, though. I don't like Moon Knight, I'm gonna be honest. I tried. I really tried. I got so bored. Nothing against, is it Oscar Isaac? Nothing against him.
He's not working with Disney again after the Star Wars stuff and Moon Knight stuff. He's very much against working with Disney again.
I thought the idea was cool, but it just annoyed me in all the wrong ways.
I agree the idea is cool, and I think they execute it well for large parts of it. I don't hate it as much as a lot of people do, but I do agree that it is one of the weaker shows.
And I'm just going to group the last two shows together, Miss Marvel and She-Hulk Attorney at Law. Both of these shows, I think She-Hulk more than the former, they are...
Got so much hate.
There was so much hate, and don't get me wrong, I watched a bit of Miss Marvel and I watched a bit of She-Hulk. Not my cup of tea, right? 100%. I thought, this is a bit weird, it's a bit goofy. But at the same time, I am old enough to know that I am not the demographic for She-Hulk or Miss Marvel, and the amount of absolute idiots online being like, oh, Marvel's woke now, and oh, it's this and that.
Not everything has to be made for a single person. Yes, you can still watch it because, again, as I was saying, these end up becoming quite important to the movies. You need to watch Miss Marvel in order to understand the Marvels. You also need to watch WandaVision to understand the Marvels. It is important to watch to then get the other shows, but these same people who didn't like Miss Marvel and She-Hulk probably also didn't like the Marvels because that film also got a lot of hate. But I didn't think Miss Marvel was fantastic. But I really liked the actress. I thought she was really fun in the role. I thought she was written quite interestingly. It was cool having a very different kind of cultural identity to it as well. It was very South Asian focused. I think they are from Pakistan. They even look back in time at the partition of India when India and Pakistan were divided up, to my understanding. If I'm getting that wrong, I do apologize. But they kind of go into that kind of side of things. And it was a part of history that, as a history student, I'm actually have very little knowledge of. And so that was quite interesting kind of looking at that and the kind of the context of that around this Marvel mythology that's happening. But the villains were kind of lame in it. So they also changed up Miss Marvel's powers from the comics quite substantially because they didn't want her to be confusing with regards to Mr. Fantastic, because I believe Miss Marvel has stretchy powers. So they gave her energy powers instead, which then allowed her to fit in more with the Captain Marvel and the Marvels side of things. But the show itself, it was cute. And so I think it was worth watching. She-Hulk, again, it got way more hate than it deserved. It was enjoyable, I would say. There was some funny stuff to it. It certainly didn't take itself very seriously. It was very Deadpool-y in the way of like fourth wall breaks, and the big kind of criticisms of it were largely the budget of having her turn into She-Hulk was not fantastic for how it was animated, because it wasn't on a Hulk from the MCU level design, and so it felt more cartoonish and it felt a bit more like Shrek.
Yeah, true.
And so that would be a big criticism of it. And then the writing was very, not parody, but it was very self-referential and very...
Yeah, very meta.
Yeah, very meta. And so large parts of it I enjoyed. And it was fun in a way where it was dealing with a lot of legal cases that were MCU specific that she was kind of dealing with, like shape-shifting elves from Asgard causing havoc, and she was doing like a case surrounding that and those kinds of things. It also kind of had Daredevil integrated into it, so that was quite fun.
So after that shocking impact into the MCU, we get to 2023 where we kick off with a couple of, let's face it, this is not the strongest phase at all film-wise. We kick off with Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania. I watched that film to see how bad it was, and it is one of the worst films I think I've ever seen in my life, genuinely.
Really?
Well, maybe not. I'm being
I was going to say, you've seen some bad movies.
Yeah, okay, maybe one of the worst Marvel films I've ever seen. And I've seen the 1980s Captain America film where he steals two people's cars despite the fact they were trying to help problem. If you ever hear someone in a Captain America suit say, pull over, I'm going to be sick, be very careful because he will steal your car. But anyway,
Noted.
the Quantum Mania just sucks, man. Which is weird because it feels as if we've got a bit of a theme here. We've got Quantum Mania, terrible. Guardians 3, fantastic. The Marvels, not great.
I liked it.
Then you've got Deadpool and Wolverine, which
I really liked that movie.
I liked it, but I can see why people are tired of Deadpool. I felt as if they really incorporated the multiverse really well into that film, and it was just such a fun romp to see Deadpool and Wolverine come together, but I will never hear that NSYNC song again the same.
I was not insulted by that like a lot of people were. I thought,
Yeah.
it's Deadpool, it's so tongue-in-cheek. It's not desecrating that movie.
I wouldn't say I was offended by the use of the song, but it's the fact that as soon as I heard it, I thought, you just know that TikTok and everything is going to be flooded with this dance and with the song. I was right, but that's another thing. But then after that, I went to see it in the cinema and it was a great experience. I didn't see Captain America Brave New World in the cinema.
I did.
I mean, I watched it with my mum and dad, and my dad was like, oh, it's got Harrison Ford in it. Oh, let's check it out. And he's not a massive superhero fan, but I thought, well, if it's anything like the Captain America films before, then, you know, keeping with the same theme, then it should be fine. And the beginning was really compelling, and then they turned Harrison Ford into the Hulk, and yeah. Yeah, to be honest, like...
Yeah, I didn't mind that so much. I thought you could see they were building up to that for ages. And you knew from the trailers and stuff like that as well it was going to happen.
And the Happy Meal toys, don't forget.
Of course.
That spoiled it.
The movie itself, whilst, and I've said this for so many of them, they're not fantastic. These movies are not fantastic, but they're watchable. They're popcorn flicks. I think that I enjoyed the Hulk bit of it probably more than most of the rest of that movie. It was a bit of a
slog, yeah.
Yeah, I went to go see it by myself in the cinema. It was fine.
I'd love to think you went there and it's the same guy sitting in your seat and you're like, oh, mother.
The cinema's not in full. I was like,
yeah.
Hey.
With his Hulk popcorn bucket. But yeah, then we wrap up with Thunderbolts, which I liked it. I actually watched it recently in preparation for this month, and I fairly enjoyed it. Here's the conflict I have with Thunderbolts. I thought as a film it was great, but I personally really don't care about the characters that are the quote-unquote new Avengers, which they, by the way, they spoiled that in like a day, 2 days.
Yeah, I was fortunate. I saw it day of, I think, or very soon after, so I wasn't part of that spoil session.
Spoil train.
Yeah, I think they probably had this plan prior, but they definitely were like, people aren't seeing this. We need to get them in to see this movie, so we have to put new Avengers on there to get them in to come see it. But like I saw it before, and the drop of saying like these guys are the new Avengers was like a kind of moment, but they does cut that in the after credits thing being like, oh, actually there's another group of people that are like the proper Avengers that are fighting a legal battle with us about who the actual Avengers are.
Yeah.
Which I think then we get from another movie or something where we find out that, oh, the other team must have won because they are still the Avengers.
Again, I think the film itself is great, but the whole, oh, they're the new Avengers, and oh, look, who have we got? We've got quirky Russian assassin. We've got the guy from Stranger Things.
No, don't call a quirky Russian assassin. That's not fair. She is really good in that film.
Yeah, she is, but I don't know, there's just something about her characterization that really, again, I don't think she's offensive in any way, or Florence Pugh, she's a great actress and everything, but it's sometimes where she's, and again, I think it extends to the whole cast of that film, where the Marvel humour kind of seeps in a wee bit, and I'm like, no, dial it back. We've got a serious plot thread with Sentinel, come on, pull it back, be a bit more serious. Oh no, how are we gonna fight them? It's like, oh no, here we go. But yeah, overall, I think it's a great film. And yeah, they definitely dropped the whole, I mean, they still have multiverses and everything, but they dropped the whole Kang the Conqueror thing after Quantum Mania because of the real, and again, I'm saying for legal reasons, alleged real life crimes of Jonathan Majors.
I believe he was cleared of the charges, to my understanding. If I'm wrong, I apologize. So there was like a, well, are they going to bring it back? But there was so much around it that that it probably wouldn't have been great PR to do so. And also because they'd already kind of decided they were dropping it because it wasn't working really either, that they just moved on to the Doomsday thing. They might return to the Kang stuff at a later point. They could recast him if they don't bring Jonathan Majors back.
But that's the thing, though. It's like, can you imagine if you built up in the Infinity Saga to Thanos? Yeah, and they got one-shotted by Howard the Duck in an alternate universe, and I'm sure there's a comic out there where that happens, but yeah, you wouldn't take him seriously. The whole mystery of, oh, who's Thanos, and oh, we're building him up, and he's this very intimidating character, that was the whole point. But to have Kang just get bodied by a giant ant, you know, well, several ants to be fair, but still, that was a dumb film. I hated it. I hated MODOK. I hated it all. That was Spy Kids level.
It was Spy Kids level, and MODOK is a ridiculous character in Marvel. In the comics, he's ridiculous. He looks stupid, but that was very poor representation of him. I'd been watching the people who made Robot Chicken did a MODOK TV series.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
It's quite fun, and so I quite like the character of MODOK, and then they did this, and I was like, oh no.
Put him back. Oh god. It's just so stupid. And I think what's worse is they do that thing where it's like, oh haha, it's stupid, we're in on the joke as well, guys. And it's like, no, you don't get to stand there as a multi-billion-dollar company and be like, oh, we're in on the joke. Because I think between phases 4 to 6, there was a lot of behind-the-scenes drama where they were letting, and I think they still are, were letting go a lot of the visual effects people. There was also accusations of, especially for the TV series Secret Invasion.
Oh, I forgot about that.
They were accused of using AI in the opening. I don't know how true that is.
I believe they admitted to it. They used AI. I could be wrong in that, but I'm pretty sure they did.
The fact is, Marvel is so CGI heavy. It's like, why would you not pay these people what they're rightfully owed? You know, it is baffling that they're like, oh no, we can do it without them.
They give Robert Downey Jr. $100 million and then aren't willing to pay their special effects team. I mean, Robert Downey Jr. is obviously a large part of why they've been so successful, but the special effects are so important, and that if you aren't paying the people to do it, then you're not going to have a product that's going to make the money.
Yeah, because I mean, other than maybe Loki season 2 in this phase, and What If as well, as we've gone over, you know, I mean, we've got Echo, which...
I didn't finish Echo.
Was it bad, or...?
No, I just didn't continue with it. My friend watched a bunch of it, and we were like, how incredible is it that they have found an actress who is native, is deaf, and is missing a limb, and can act. That's insane that they found someone like that. That's who the character is.
And yet they can't pay their VFX stuff. Yeah. Go figure.
Yeah. Echo was cool. It followed a lot of stuff with Kingpin, and so you got a lot more kind of interaction with him. So that was fun, because he's fantastic. I can never remember the actor's name, but he's really, really good, and she's really compelling. But I'd watched probably maybe 2/3 of it, and I just haven't got around to finishing it.
And then to finish off this phase, we've got Agatha All Along, which...
I liked Agatha All Along. Did you watch it?
No, not really. I wouldn't say, oh, it's terrible, why did they make it? You know, a lot of people love Agatha's character, and it looks like a kind of fun Hocus Pocus-esque show. Yeah, it's just, it's not for me personally. When I say that, you know, I still need to try it out, but it wasn't one that grabbed me, and I was like, oh, I have to watch it.
I'd recommend you watch it. You need to keep going to the end. It's fun, it's interesting throughout. The end puts a really interesting perspective on it.
No, definitely need to. But again, it's one of those shows that I wasn't like, oh, I should really watch it. But at the same time, I wasn't sitting there going, this show's not made for me. Again, I've moaned about those people enough. But then you've got your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. I have no idea what that is.
Oh, it's a Spider-Man cartoon. It's in like a different world. It's not Tom Holland's Spider-Man. It's a different universe, through my understanding.
Yeah, fair.
It was okay.
And then you've got Daredevil Born Again, which I really have to watch and keep up with, because I've heard it's really good. Everybody praises it, but it's one of the few shows that I genuinely haven't sat down to watch, because I don't know why. It's just, I don't know if I have to watch the Netflix one first. Or...
No, because as I said, I didn't finish the Netflix Daredevil series, and I don't feel like I've missed much. It helped. I remembered a lot of what happened in those first 2 seasons of Daredevil. Like, I didn't need to go back and rewatch it. I just remembered. And that has helped a lot. It has not made it super hard to jump into if you don't know that much about the character. Like, there's certainly characters that they talk about and reference and stuff that are included, but it's something that you can just join. It does have some callbacks to other shows, like the Hawkeye show, because there's a character in the Hawkeye show that's in it, but like, I think you can just watch it anyway.
And then to wrap up in terms of the TV series, then we've got Ironheart.
I didn't enjoy Ironheart. I tried really hard with it and I just didn't find it interesting.
It seems like it's more of the writer's fault for this one, where they're trying to have someone who is this character that's gifted and everything, and they want to be separate from Tony Stark and everything. And from what I've heard, especially from the backlash, some people, you know, you think, you can disregard what they're saying, but then there's some genuine criticisms where it's like they just haven't characterised Ironheart very well, and I think that's probably what put a lot of people off, because I think she was introduced in Wakanda Forever. Yeah, and then they brought her in this, and again, as I said, I mean, I've only seen an episode or two. I can't fully go into it.
They seem to be setting up Young Avengers.
Yeah.
And I think she's going to be part of that. She'll be part of it. Hawkeye, Kate Bishop, she'll be in it. Miss Marvel's going to be in it. The boy from Agatha All Along is going to be in it. I won't spoil the significance of him, because you learn more about him in Agatha All Along. I wonder if Black Panther's son will be in it. Maybe Thor's daughter? I don't know.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, because it's not technically Thor's daughter. It's Christian Bale's daughter that Thor adopts.
What a wasted plot line. They had Gore, the god butcher, and they're like, yeah, you know what we're going to do? Nothing. Kill one god and then that's it. Yeah, great. 10 out of 10. Anyway, let's see Thor naked. I hated that film.
He killed a few gods, didn't he? I think that was the whole thing.
Yeah, off screen though. It was like, oh, okay.
You have Kratos going through the Pantheon.
Disney, give us a good Thor film. My life is yours. Oh, God. But yeah, speaking of things I never realised happened until it was too late, Phase 6, which I am actually really shocked at how little films there are in Phase 6.
It is a very short one, yeah.
There's like 4 of them. So there's Fantastic Four First Steps, which I have to say I enjoyed it for what it was, but it feels very much a filler film up until the very end when they
I mean, it was an Origins film without actually being an Origins film, because they kind of like jumped over a lot of the origin side of things to kind of just get you up to speed and have you experience these characters, experience Galactus and Silver Surfer, that kind of stuff, before then throwing them in to be with the rest of the Marvel gang. So I really liked it. I liked the world, the very kind of 70s retrofuturism kind of idea. I thought that was really cool. And so I really enjoyed Fantastic Four. I thought it was a breath of fresh air from a lot of the other lamer Marvel stuff that had been coming out.
Yeah, it definitely had an identity to it for sure, which I think was pretty good. We can definitely nitpick about certain things in it, but I think overall it did its job as the one that kicked off Phase 6, which again, maybe it's just because I don't follow the MCU as closely as I used to, but I genuinely didn't realise we were in Phase 6. I said it to you in one of the episodes, I was like, what phase are we on? Like 4 or 5? And you're like, no, we're in Phase 6. And I was like, what? God. Because in a couple of weeks, as I said, we've got Spider-Man Brand New Day, which we're both hoping to see in the cinema. Because I have to say, although I'm not a big fan of everything the MCU's churning out, I still like Spider-Man. You know, he's still one of my favourite superheroes, so I'd be interested to see not only what they do with that, but also what Glasgow looks like, once again, dressed up as New York.
I was going to say, you don't have to go far to go see what Glasgow looks like.
Well, very true. But then we've got Avengers Doomsday and Secret Wars coming out, which I'm laughing at because I'm pretty sure Doomsday was called the Kang Dynasty, wasn't it? Or something like that. That was the film that it was supposed to be before they decided that A, they were going to get rid of Jonathan Majors, and B, that...
I mean, sort of, because they were going to do like a Kang Dynasty Part 1 and 2 kind of thing. That was supposed to come out a year or so ago, I think. And so when they cancelled that and then brought forward Doomsday, because Doomsday had been a plan for a while, but they just kind of reset when they were going to bring forward certain things.
Because what I find quite interesting is, especially in this phase, is, see for the TV shows, is just the fact that there's not really, and I mean, I could totally be wrong in this, but there's a lot of kind of filler, maybe with the exception of Daredevil Born Again, because I haven't seen that, but you've got the Eyes of Wakanda, you've got Marvel Zombies, spin-off, and then you've got Wonder Man, which we have done an episode on. It's an excellent show.
So good.
Genuinely, that one really blindsided me, because I was like, there there is no way this is going to be good. And I thought, okay, we can give it a chance. It's an interesting concept. We did a whole episode on it. That shows you how good it is. But there's not really any coming up and saying, oh, you have to watch these to understand the other ones, you know?
Yeah, I'm curious because there's talk about the X-Men being introduced pretty soon into the MCU that will have either in Spider-Man or in Doomsday or whatever, if they'll announce stuff soon afterwards, because like, they're keeping everything very hush-hush about X-Men stuff, other than the fact that we know that Magneto, Ian McKellen, is going to be in Doomsday. So I suspect we'll probably have some X-Men-y type shows that are going to be announced after that. That would be my guess. And we've got X-Men 97, I think it's called, coming soon as well.
No, that's true. And to be honest, it is very early days to see what they're going to pull out for Phase 6, because Avengers Doomsday comes out, as of this episode anyway, it comes out on December 18th this year, and then the next one's going to come out a year later. That'll let people ruminate over what happens in Doomsday, the twists, the turns. But see, as a closing point though, overall from Phases 4 to 6, what's your thoughts on this period of Marvel? What do you think it says about the future of the MCU?
I think there was certainly a lull. There were still some decent things coming out in that poorer time, but it was certainly a lull in post-Endgame. And then I think things are starting to pick up again. I've really enjoyed Thunderbolts. I really liked Fantastic Four. Wolverine movie isn't everyone's cup of tea, but I really liked it. And so I think that things are going to be more interesting. It's just unfortunately we just don't have the same kind of compelling characters in place that we once did. The lack of Iron Man is so telling. Marvel themselves knows that they had to get Robert Downey Jr. back to bring in, and that Chris Evans is coming back for Doomsday as well. Kind of shows their lack of faith in the Captain America storyline that they had set up post him leaving. So there's hope for the future, but you also worry what their plan is post these people leaving again, because they've not really handled it super well. I think it will require a reboot at some point, because they can't keep telling these stories in this kind of fashion without the characters that everyone loves so much.
It is true though. I feel as if they are victims of their own success, because although it had its highs and lows, at least for Phases 1 to 3 in the Infinity Saga as a whole, they definitely stuck the landing and they managed to build that hype and everything. And I get that through Phases 4 to 6 there is that superhero fatigue setting in, that people are like, oh great, another superhero film, oh right, you have to watch this TV show to get this film, and you know, etc, etc. And it is quite a shame, to be honest, and I feel as if it's almost inevitable that's what's going to happen, that they're trying to expand and do different things, which I love it when a franchise tries to do different things and does different genres and whatnot, but I feel as if there's a lot more duds than successes. You know, for every Deadpool and Wolverine or Guardians of the Galaxy 3, we've got Quantumania, we've got Love and Thunder. For every No Way Home, we've got The Eternals or Multiverse of Madness. You know, it is such a mix, and especially with the TV shows, I feel as if they are definitely trying to lean into that, and I like the idea of that they're making the films and the series more accessible in that regard, because let's face it, streaming is so popular nowadays. You didn't have to hear that from me to know that. Be like, what? Netflix? What's that? But at the same time, it gives new fans this accessibility point to be like, oh, do you want to watch Miss Marvel, or do you want to watch The Falcon and the Winter Soldier? You know, there is a genre for everyone, and I think even in the Multiverse saga, they do that so well by appealing to all different types of fans. But with that being said, I think they've probably spun their webs out maybe too much in that regard. There's no real core consistency with this arc, and that is just a shame, to be honest, because I know they were hedging their bets on Kang and everything, but it still baffles me that they introduced Kang in Loki, which again, as I said, it's a good TV show, but I mean, it's the main guy, for God's sake, it's the main villain, and you introduce him in a TV show that not everyone's gonna watch. It seems like there's a lot more missteps in this saga than there are triumphs, to be honest. And would you say that there is still time for them to turn it around?
Oh, I think so. I think there is. As I was saying there, it does seem like they are coming to a point where they're going to have to reboot everything.
Yeah.
To set, have a new Iron Man, have a new Captain America, and just kind of tell not necessarily the origin stories again, but just kind of go through these different kind of storylines with people who are set up so you aren't stuck in this kind of continuity, because that's what comic books do. The comic books don't just necessarily can keep going and going and going, because otherwise we've already killed XYZ, who do we have left? So they'll need to do that at some point. And if they don't, it's going to be the death of comic book movies, at least from the Marvel side of things, for a long time, because people are just going to lose interest because they're going to run out of fun things. There are comic book storylines to be told. There's no problem in that way, but you need the characters there to tell them. And if you don't have Iron Man, if you don't have Captain America, if you don't have Thor, you need to have these people available.
Oh no, 100%. Again, when they talk about the downfall of the MCU, this isn't coming from two people who want to see the MCU fail. It's coming from a place of, we're both fans of this franchise, and it's a shame to see it spiral the way it has, but I don't think by any means that means it's going to be a total failure. You know, like they're going to say, oh, we're not going to do this or that. But then again, we've got things like the Blade film and Armor Wars, which they're just stuck in production hell right now. I don't know what's going on with that, because they really bigged it up and they're like, oh, we're going to do this, we're going to do that.
They pulled Mahershala Ali onto stage, I'm pretty sure.
They did, yeah.
This is the new Blade, and people were like, whoa, cool, yay, and then it just fell through.
And what I find quite, and maybe this is just a post-COVID thing, but I feel as if nowadays there's not the same excitement and the same hype towards the MCU.
No, there's not. I mean, you're not going to get that back in the bottle like you had for Infinity War, because that whole setup was a filmmaking masterpiece. It was incredible how they weaved those films together to kind of form this ultimate storyline. There were duds along the way, but it was still done in a way that made sense and that had an ultimate goal. And I think what's happening now is not an obvious ultimate goal to what is happening in these movies. They're isolated, which there's nothing wrong with that. That's how some superhero movies used to be. They didn't all have to be weaved together in that way, but it does just feel like they're wandering aimlessly.
All I can hope for the future is that for Doomsday and Secret Wars is that they manage to stick the superhero landing, and that they manage to basically, again, I'm not expecting them to rekindle what we went through growing up with the franchise and everything, but the other thing I would say is that I hope that the new generation of Marvel fans get some enjoyment out of these films, because it's so easy to listen to all this negativity online, people saying, oh, the MCU's dead, it's, not worth watching, and to some degree there are a lot of films and TV shows that just are absolute duds, but just because of that doesn't mean that people can't get enjoyment out of other parts of the franchise. And I think that is what's so special about the MCU, is there's just something for everyone. I mean, if you told me that we were going to do a whole episode on Wonder Man of all things, I would have been like, yeah, Andrew, very funny. But no, we did, and we both loved it. And it just shows that they're not creatively bankrupt. I mean, the films are in some degrees, but they really aren't. I mean, between the Fantastic Four film, there is still some creativity there. So yeah, fingers crossed that they stick the landing there. And yeah, Disney, if you're listening, give us free tickets. What are the odds that's going to happen, Andrew?
I'll get Kevin on the line.
Mr. Feige, please. I want a ticket, please.
Do you know the Odeon in Dunfermline?
Even I don't know the Odeon in Dunfermline. But I'll go to it just for you, Mr. Feige. Mr. Iron Fist, do you have tickets?
Danny Rand,
that was it. Oh my god. That's a blast from the past.
That just came to me just like a fever dream right there.
The prophecy is complete. We can end the episode now.
Nice.
Oh, nice.
Bye, everyone.
But yeah, on that note, Andrew, thank you so much for joining me. And yeah, reminiscing about, maybe not the most desirable part of the MCU, but still interesting to look at it.
Oh no, thank you so much for having me. It's been a wonderful time talking about the ups and downs of this time in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and hopefully we can see some more positive things coming. We're looking forward to watching the Spider-Man movie. We'll hopefully have a soon after reaction to it. It won't be quite the in the car park of the cinema style reaction that you have for some of the films.
That I'm so used to, yeah.
The War of the Rohirrim.
I've done that twice, by the way. Godzilla and War of the Rohirrim.
Oh, back-to-back classics.
Yeah, when I come to Canada, trust me, I'll be finding the first car, breaking into it and being like, okay, quick, let's review whatever. Go.
Satsu, I have a car.
No time, we gotta go. But yeah, if you want to listen to more episodes from ourselves about Marvel Month, as well as, just general chaos from ourselves, and you can check us out at our website, chatsunami.com, as well as all good podcast apps. I also want to thank our amazing Pandalorian patrons, Robotic Battle Toaster, Ghostie, and Cryptic 1991. Thank you so much for listening to the show. But if you would like early access to episodes, exclusive episodes that come out twice a month, commentary tracks, as well as Andrew and I's in-person episode, for legal reasons that one is a joke for now, but maybe one day, then definitely check us out at our Patreon page, patreon.com/Chatsunami. This podcast is of course a proud member of the Podpack Collective. For more information, check us out at our Twitter/X page at Podpack Collect. But until next time, thank you all so much for listening. Stay safe, stay awesome, and most importantly, stay hydrated. And you know what? I am so glad that we don't have any big red buttons sitting beside me for a post-credit scene. I mean, that would be very silly if I just... Oh god, I pressed it again.
Oh no.
Oh god, no!